Brilliant, ambitious, troubled. All words used to describe actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was found dead yesterday in his New York City apartment. In addition to an outpouring of accolades, Hoffman's death is prompting a larger discussion about drug abuse, specifically heroin, which is making a resurgence in cities across the country, including here in Boston. Philip Seymour Hoffman had struggled with addiction for decades and had recently started using again, this time with deadly results. In 2006, he told 60 Minutes he started using in college.
Anything I can get my hands on. yeah, I liked it all.
The scourge of heroin is nothing new. What is new is the sheer volume on the streets. In New York City, where Hoffman died, authorities seized $8 million worth of heroin just last Friday. And in Pennsylvania, a deadly heroin combination killed almost 24 people last month.
I just finished doing, the heroin, and I walked into the bathroom, and I just woke up on the ground.
This addict took heroin variants called Theraflu and Bud Ice. And while they're more deadly, they give addicts the rush they want.
That's the sick thing about addiction, when somebody knows that there's, heroin bags out there that are killing people or making them overdose. They're like, well, we know those are the good bags.
In 1998, we focused on a similar designer-type heroin known as P-dope.
P-dope is cheaper than a six-pack of beer. And it's unbelievable. This is really a national emergency. This is a designer type of heroin that cuts through methadone. There's many more deaths because of it, much more needle sharing.
But like now, people did it then for the high.
No, I never thought I'd stick needles in my arm. I went skiing every weekend when I was a kid, But I worked all my life as a carpenter, right? Every penny I made went into my arm.
Nothing has changed, it seems, except the names. My next guest says he's seen the scourge of heroin abuse in Boston's neighborhoods. Tito Jackson is a city councilor representing Roxbury and parts of the South End, Dorchester, Jamaica Plain, and the Fenway. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you so much, Emily.
Tito, there's been a lot of focus recently on this kind of designer drug Molly because it got of attention last summer, going nightclubs, and a couple people overdosed. But you've been very clear about this. Heroin is by far and away a greater problem.
When you look at from 2002, when we had 900 overdoses, to 2012, when we had 1,900 overdoses, this is a huge issue. One of the issues that we also have to look at is that issue of other opioids that affect heroin use, such as OxyContin. Oftentimes people start with OxyContin and then end up on heroin, which has actually changed in terms of the marketplace.
Exactly, and that's the key here thing that, I was unaware of this, that heroin has become affordable and accessible in a way that OxyContin and some of these other prescription drugs are not.
Yep. So OxyContin oftentimes is about $100 per pill on the street. When people can't get that, what they do is they move to heroin. What we've seen with heroin is we've seen a decline in price and then also an increase in purity. So you have a lot of folks who are now sniffing it and also injecting it, leading to this. There are some good things that are happening out there. Narcan. We have over 20,000 people trained on a drug that actually will save you from overdose oftentimes. And we've seen about 2,500 folks saved by the administration of this drug, Narcan.
When I went back and looked at that piece I did in 1998 about P-dope, all the addicts were down there getting methadone. And it was at a clinic down there. But P-dope cut through methadone, which is why they were seeking out P-dope. Yeah. So they get the methadone, they say, oh yeah, but I want to get the high, and they go back and get something stronger.
Yeah. So the other underlying issue, and my friend Steve Tolman worked a lot on this. Marty Walsh obviously worked a lot on, Mayor Marty Walsh worked a lot on these issues, as well as my state rep, Liz Malia. We have to stop the punitive component of it and deal with it from a public health perspective. 2/3 of the people who we lock up are people who are non-violent drug offenders. These folks are best served by increasing the number of beds and dealing with this from a public health perspective rather than a punitive and penal perspective.
Why is this happening? Because it's not just a socioeconomic thing. I mean, look at Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I was just looking at an ABC piece in rural Vermont. It's not just a poverty issue. It's it's a social issue. Like nothing else to do. But Why are people even giving it a shot in the first place?
Yeah, interestingly, there's a lot of reasons why folks do it, but one of the most common reasons is the underlying issue of depression. And so oftentimes what people are doing is they're self-medicating. They're taking something to numb them. Some people use alcohol, some people use an opioid, and that underlying issue is really what drives them to do that. There's been actually experiments where they've had someone on 2,000 milligrams of morphine. They backed them all the way down to 20 milligrams and gave them an antidepressant, and they were able to function. We have to get to that underlying issue of depression and get to those folks before they end up in this state.
Philip Seymour Hoffman allegedly had up to 50 packs of heroin in his room. He had left his family last May. He knew he had a problem. But you listen to what that kid, Andrew, said from Pennsylvania. He said, oh, if you hear that people are dying of something like possibly what Philip Seymour Hoffman took, you want to get that one because you know that's the strongest.
Well, and we also know there's something, people build up a tolerance in their system, and there's what they call down regulation relative to this. And, in Boston, we had an issue with this strain of heroin called Fire, and it was actually killing people. And to your point, those are the types of folks, those are the things that people gravitate towards. Just a quick story. I used to do sales, and I was actually at a hospital. There was a guy who got dropped right in front of the hospital, and his face was blue. It was an Asian brother. I picked him up, brought him inside. He wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. And they were able to administer Narcan to him. But sadly, they had to strap him down because he was mad because his high was interrupted. This is something that has a physical grip on people as well as a mental grip. We need more beds. We need to increase the number of treatment facilities because, and also, there's no such thing as a second chance. We're talking about a 16th, 17th, and 18th chance to help people get out of this.
So is this a social drug the way Molly is? Oh, you spread it around at a party or a club or something like this? Or is this a loner's drug?
I don't think it's as much of a loner's drug as we think. And what we also have is we have some safe harbor laws now that also say, listen, if someone does OD in front of you, you actually have an opportunity to call the police, and no one's going to go after you. That's something that we should do. Although we should be alarmed because 1,900 people versus the 3 or 4 folks who had issues with Molly last year, there are many families who today are feeling exactly like Philip Seymour Hoffman's family. We want to make sure that we're taking care of them, but also preemptively taking care of the young people as well as not so young people who this affects.
All right, Tito Jackson, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.